My name is Dr. Ben-David, and I died of a heart attack at 58 while doing research on the Sea of Galilee. For 23 minutes, I was gone. My life wasn't what you would call spiritual. I'm a scientist, a limnologist to be exact. That's a fancy word for someone who studies freshwater lakes and rivers. For 3 decades, the Sea of Galilee was more than just a workplace, it was my entire universe. I measured oxygen levels, tracked algae blooms, wrote detailed reports, and trusted only in what data could prove. Faith, for me, was an old tradition, something my wife Leah practiced when she lit Shabbat candles, something my daughter Maya held onto when she prayed before exams. But for me, numbers were my religion, and evidence was my creed. That morning began like hundreds before it. The sun rose through the mist, casting a quiet glow on the waters. I leaned over my small boat to collect another vial of water. My mind was full of calculations about salinity, temperature, and oxygen. Then, suddenly, pain crushed my chest. My body collapsed, my hand dropped the vial, and the world dissolved into silence. But silence did not mean the end. For the first time in my life, I discovered a dimension that no microscope could reveal. I saw my boat from above. I saw my lifeless body slumped on the deck. I saw fishermen in the distance rushing to help. Yet instead of fear, I felt an overwhelming calm, as if every burden had lifted. Then, the darkness shifted. It wasn't emptiness, it was a presence. A light emerged, not blinding but tender, a warmth that filled the soul instead of the eyes. And in that light I saw him. Not a figure from ancient paintings, but a being more real than the waves I had studied for years. His eyes met mine, and in them I was fully known, every childhood fear, every mistake, every hidden doubt. There was no judgment, only love. At that moment, I realized, all the data I had dedicated my life to was only a shadow of the deeper truth. The waters I studied were finite, but this love was infinite. And I knew I had crossed into the very heart of eternity. The light around me expanded, and suddenly, I was no longer in the void. Jesus turned my gaze, and I saw the Sea of Galilee again, but not the lake I had known for 30 years. This was not the place of algae blooms, pollution, and declining salinity. It was alive in a way that defied every scientific definition. The water was crystal clear, shimmering with an inner glow. Fish glided like streams of living light, plants waved in rhythms of worship, and every stone at the bottom pulsed with quiet holiness. Jesus' voice entered my soul, not through my ears, but directly into the deepest part of me. You have spent your life studying the waters of earth. But now I show you the waters of the heart. As he spoke, I understood. This radiant lake was not only Galilee, it was a mirror of what humanity was created to be, pure, forgiving, overflowing with love. Yet, even as I marveled, something changed. A single drop of thick black liquid fell into the water. It didn't dissolve. It clung, spreading like poison. Another drop followed, then another. What is that? I asked, horrified. Jesus showed me. A family sitting at dinner, their hearts full of bitterness and anger. A woman gossiping about her neighbor. A man praying eloquent prayers while harboring deep resentment. With every act of pride, judgment, or unforgiveness, another drop fell into the lake. And slowly, what was pure became red, thick, dying. I watched the transformation with grief. The fish gasped and floated lifeless. The once radiant waters became a sea of blood, choking with poison. Jesus' eyes were full of sorrow as he spoke. This is the state of many hearts. They drown in unforgiveness. They pray with their lips, but their hearts are stones toward their brothers. They are thirsty, yet they refuse the water of life. The vision pierced me. I realized that humanity's greatest crisis is not scientific, political, or even environmental. It is spiritual. Our hearts have become seas of unforgiveness. But then Jesus showed me hope. A young woman whispered, "I forgive you," to her father who had wounded her for years. Her words released a golden drop into the Red Sea, and instantly, a circle of clear water appeared. One fish swam back to life. Another man served his sick mother with patience, and another golden drop fell, creating another circle of purity. Each act of love, humility, and forgiveness restored part of the lake. Jesus turned to me and said, "This is the cure. It is not a secret doctrine. It is forgiveness. It is humble love. It is to see my face in the one you want to hate. Each drop of love heals the sea. I wept because I understood. The true waters of life flow not from rivers or lakes, but from a heart that forgives. If you feel this message speaking to your heart, leave a comment with one word of the forgiveness you choose today. And subscribe to join this community of faith, so together we may walk under God's protection and His blessing. The vision deepened. I saw not just individuals, but entire communities. Jesus let me see the spiritual condition of humanity like an ocean from above. The waters of the heart were no longer pure. They were stained, choked with countless drops of bitterness, pride, and unforgiveness. It was not just one family or one man's prayer, it was nations divided, churches broken, friendships shattered, marriages poisoned. The Sea of Galilee, once glowing with life, now appeared as a vast red sea of death. The fish that had shimmered with holy light now floated lifeless, their bodies pale. Plants that had once waved like worshippers now stood gray and withered. The entire lake had become a mirror of the world's soul, beautiful in design, but suffocated by the poison of hatred. Jesus' voice trembled with sorrow. My people are drowning, not in water, but in their own bitterness. They carry offenses as if they were treasures. They build walls of pride instead of bridges of mercy. Their lips speak my name, but their hearts are closed to my spirit. The weight of His grief pressed on me. I remembered my own life. How many times had I dismissed my wife's prayers as superstition? How many times had I chosen data over compassion, silence over forgiveness? My scientific pride seemed so small now, compared to the infinite ocean of love He offered. Then Jesus showed me another image. I saw people arguing over politics, shouting across screens, dividing families. Each harsh word sent a new drop of red into the sea. I saw religious leaders preaching about holiness while secretly holding grudges. Their prayers were polished, but their hearts were poisoned. And with every hidden resentment, the sea turned darker. I wanted to turn away, but Jesus held my gaze. His eyes were filled with both grief and hope. "This," He said, "is why I called you here. To see the truth of the waters. To understand that the greatest threat to humanity is not what they fear outside, but what they harbor inside. The unforgiven heart is a dying sea." I wept openly. The world I thought I understood through microscopes and instruments was nothing compared to this revelation. I finally realized that the truest science was not in laboratories but in the condition of the human soul. Yet even in the midst of sorrow, He reminded me of hope. Golden drops continued to fall whenever forgiveness was chosen, whenever mercy triumphed over judgment. And though the sea was vast, I saw how one drop could ripple far beyond itself. Love was stronger than poison. Forgiveness was greater than bitterness. As I stood trembling before the vision, Jesus did not leave me in despair. He lifted my eyes, and suddenly I saw light breaking into the red waters. It began with one drop, pure, golden, radiant. Unlike the black and red drops of bitterness, this drop spread light in all directions. Jesus showed me the source. A young man sat at the bedside of his elderly mother in a nursing home. She barely recognized him, her memory fading. Yet he held her hand, speaking words of kindness and patience. No bitterness, no complaint, no demand for recognition, only love. As his words flowed, a golden drop fell into the sea, and a circle of life opened in the poisoned waters. Then I saw more. A woman who had been betrayed by a friend chose to forgive instead of retaliate. Her forgiveness became another golden drop. A man who lost his job prayed for the boss who dismissed him instead of cursing him, and his mercy released another drop. A pastor knelt in humility and asked forgiveness from his congregation for his pride, and light poured into the sea again. Each golden drop was small, almost invisible against the vastness of the red waters, but the ripples multiplied. Circles of clear water began to connect. Fish swam back into life. Plants lifted green shoots again. Slowly, the sea that had looked hopeless began to breathe. Jesus turned to me and said, "This is how the sea is healed, not by force, not by judgment, but one act of forgiveness at a time. The drops of love may seem small, but each one carries my power. One person who chooses to forgive brings life not only to themselves but to those around them." I realized then that the cure for humanity's poisoned heart was not complicated. It was simple, yet costly. Forgiveness is always costly, because it asks us to lay down pride, to surrender anger, to see the face of God even in those who hurt us. I thought about my own life. How often had I chosen silence instead of saying, "I forgive you"? How many times had I let small resentments build walls in my heart? I knew I had carried stones instead of drops of gold. And in that moment, I wanted to start over. The vision faded slightly, but the truth remained seared into me. The golden drops of love are the only hope for a dying sea. The vision grew dim, but Jesus' presence was still strong. I wanted to remain in that place forever, where peace flowed like a river and love wrapped around me like light. I whispered to him, "Please let me stay. I am tired. I don't want to go back." But he placed his hand on my shoulder, and the weight of his touch felt like the universe itself, gentle yet unstoppable. His eyes looked into mine, and I heard his words. "Avi, your research is not finished. You have studied the waters of the earth, but now I give you a new assignment. Tell the world about the waters of the heart. Tell them that I grieve for the Red Sea within them. Tell them that forgiveness, the golden drops, can cleanse the waters again." His voice trembled, but his love never wavered. "Your wife needs her husband. Your daughter needs her father. Go back and carry this message. And remember, I will be with you." The thought of leaving him was agony, like being torn apart. Yet even in my sorrow, his promise filled me with strength that was not my own. Suddenly, the light faded, and the silence broke. Fire shot through my chest, and I gasped for air. I opened my eyes to chaos, paramedics, shouting voices, the roar of a helicopter above. I had returned. Later, the doctors told me I had been dead for 23 minutes. By all logic, my brain should have been gone. Yet I was alive, fully aware, with a story seared into my soul. My wife Leah wept by my side. My daughter Maya's face appeared on a video call, filled with tears of relief. I knew then that my life had been spared for a reason. And so now, I tell you, the Sea of Galilee was my career, but the Sea of the Heart is my calling. Jesus revealed that humanity is drowning, not in water, but in unforgiveness, division, and pride. Yet he also showed the cure, the golden drops of forgiveness, humility, and love. This message is not about science. It is about eternity. Heaven is real. Jesus is alive. And the choice is before each of us. Will we hold on to bitterness, or will we release one golden drop that heals not just us, but the world around us? My friend, if you long for peace in your life, I invite you to type Amen in the comments. That is your golden drop today. And subscribe now to join this community of faith, so we may walk together, under God's protection, living daily in His blessing.